Is the panic over or is it just beginning? Welcome back to the Sunday Report. We got a lot to talk about. And first, I want to announce the winner of the meme competition, Crypto Bears, who put together this awesome meme. It's such a good video, and we'll do more of these in the future as well. It was a ton of fun. There's other memes that'll probably be used in future videos as well, just because they were so well made. Can't let that content go to waste. Appreciate everyone for participating, and we'll have more of them in the future as well. So this is usually when I go over some charts, talk about the overall market sentiment, to go over the S&P index, but I gotta say, that the charting we did a few weeks ago still holds up, and I don't want to become really repetitive on going over the same information over and over. So if you haven't seen it already, make sure you check out the Sunday Report from September 25th. I still think it's very useful to watch this. The one thing I will add is what we're watching from TradingView is that for the potential from the 360 to 350 drop, and if that breaks as well, then we're going to be looking at a revisitation to the pre-COVID highs. So if we hit to this point and then we see a give out at the pre-COVID highs, which a lot of people are now predicting, I'm seeing a lot of people say, hey, this is not going to give out, and they're saying it could be a quick draw to 300. Now, if that happens, I would say that's a pretty low probability still at this point, but if that does happen, that could be a flash crash potential, which then leads us to have to talk about, okay, what could actually cause that? So if we head over to the economic calendar, one of the things that I want to point out, and sorry, we're kind of all over the place this week, but I just think that this is the best way to talk about this. If we look at Wednesday for the economic calendar, we can see the FOMC minutes is going to be at 1 p.m. Now, this is going to be big because I think a big conversation that's currently going on in the market is, hey, the Fed has to pivot. The UN has even come out and asked the Fed to pivot. If you haven't seen that short, make sure to check out the YouTube. I did a short about it where the UN is saying, hey, the US dollar is a wrecking ball. You need to pivot now. You need to stop strengthening the dollar because it's causing pain to everyone, everywhere. But the Fed, I think, is still going to be fighting inflation, as they've told us many times. And for the people thinking that we're going to see a pivot this early, I think are going to be sorely disappointed. And speaking of disappointments, we could see retail sales is projected to continue to fall down. However, the consumer sentiment is actually expected to continue on this journey upwards, signifying that people think the economy is getting better. I actually think that this could be a surprise to the downside for the market because I expect this to turn over. And why is that? Well, we've also seen gas prices rising, and gas prices are huge because it's right in your face as a consumer of like, whoa, why is that number going back up? I thought Biden fixed everything. Now, if you've been following me, you know for sure he has not. And we've expected those prices to come back up. And actually, if I go on TradingView and pull up XLE here, which if I can click buttons, if I pull up XLE here, we can see, hey, that's quite a rally from the energy sector. Lots of people were surprised by this. Some people are pinging me like, oh, wow, are you still bullish on energy? Yes, I've always been bullish on energy. Been bullish on energy all year. This is why I'm crushing the market when it comes to the year-long performance. And we can see exactly what I have projected for this continue and why I still hold a significant portion of my portfolio in energy. Now, on this next fire up, I am looking to sell this and snag up some cheap stocks that I like for the long term. But when the returns in energy have been so good, the fundamentals still hold up, and the bearish case seems so far-fetched, it would take so much for me to win a 180 on this position. Yeah, I'm still bullish on energy. And you know where else I'm bullish? I'm still bullish on crypto. And actually, if we take a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin pulled up right now. At Bitcoin, we can see that it's firing on the TTM squeeze. If we actually start to see this catch some bullish headwinds, I think we could have a potential for a big move to the upside here. That, or if the market flash crashes, this will likely flash crash with it. I still think, though, in the long term, if you're an investor, that this is a great buying price for Bitcoin, and I'm really not convinced that it will capitulate with the market. In fact, I think a market capitulation could send people over to Bitcoin because of all the chaos going on with the other currencies. I think actually makes a very strong bullish fundamental case for Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm a buyer in crypto. I'm bullish there, even against what might be some short-term price action volatility. I like it. And that's another reason why I like Coinbase. And hopefully you all watched the podcast I also did with the CEO of Coffee and Crypto. The guy works full-time in Web3, just trading NFTs and crypto. He was very knowledgeable, shared a bunch of projects with me that I went out and investigated, and I'm definitely a buyer in some of those as well. So make sure you watch that, and I'll also be clipping it some this week as well. I was supposed to do it earlier, but I got busy, but don't worry, I'll get around to it. We'll cut out some clips and talk about that. And this brings me to the last topic that I wanted to talk about today. Now, for those of you who've been with us the whole year, this conversation is going to sound really familiar because we had it during the whole transitory narrative that the Fed was having, and that was inflation versus deflation. Now, there is a lot of inflation right now, and I'm seeing some people, some experts step out and say, look, if the Fed pivots early next year, like the euro dollar future markets say, then it will cause massive inflation and be horrible. However, there is a deflationary camp here that I don't think is getting enough attention, and I'm going to step out on a limb and say, hey, it might be okay. All the money printing in the long term over a 10-year horizon might be okay because people matter more than money. I still stand by this. In the short term, I ended up being wrong because I was thinking on too long of a time frame and too short of a time span. But on the long term, I'm still very confident that deflation is a greater force than inflation. As a population continues to regress, it usually becomes an exponential movement where they seem to just drop off a cliff. We've seen this happen time and time again in history. And if it's happening now, it means that there could be a huge fall off in economic activity. What this does is it incentivizes new technologies which make things cheaper to then be incorporated. Things like robotics and AI. Because, hey, we need to keep up this productivity since we are, exporting all this technology to the world or food or whatnot, or we still need to have all this production for the people that live, but there's not enough young people to work these very labor-intensive jobs to support the much larger aging portion of the population, and we need to keep that productivity up so that we can actually pay for these people's Social Security and healthcare and, the retirement, keep those pension plans going. You need to keep all that productivity up, which means you need better technology, which still means that you actually still have a less demand of certain goods and services, which means those prices are naturally going to come down, which means if money printing causes prices to go down, but your population is deflationary, you might be able to cheat it and get away with it because the forces of deflation are going to be greater than the forces of inflation. And there is a balance and a tightrope that you can walk when you have an environment like that. And that is a huge difference between how our population was growing in the 70s when there was a bunch of inflation and now. And this will also, I think, be another reason why the Fed eventually pivots. And I am shocked that we have not heard more people talk about this because it's a huge factor. Yes, it occurs on a very, very long time frame. We're talking about generations over generations. But this type of policy where you do have a central bank could actually be beneficial in an environment like this when normally it wouldn't. Now, it isn't right now overall because the raging dollar is wrecking everything. But when it comes to analyzing, okay, is this inflation really going to be persistent? Probably not. There's too many factors at play for me to buy into that. And I think that the probability that it's sticky is really high, but the probability that we see inflation become hyperinflation into the next few years, I think is extremely low. And everything I've just said in like the last minute and a half could likely be turned into a 2, 3, 4 hour explanation or deep dive. But of course, I try to keep these short. I try to just give you the punchlines. Yes, you could hear a guy talk about the same topics over and over again, but I try to keep these, as punctual. Just get the information. Get what's actually helpful for you. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. There's more things we got to talk about. I've got to do some more videos this week, but I also have to do a lot of prep for some big things happening in the Discord. If you're in the Discord, you know what's happening. Nobel Trading, we're super pumped about some big things that are coming just around the corner. So there'll be more information on that. I can't reveal any details yet, but it's exciting. Some of these have been in the works for months, so it's super exciting that like we're right there. Coming to the end of the year, we should have some banger announcements, and it should be a whole lot of fun and really helpful to everyone in the Noble Trading community, because that's my number one goal, is to make sure I'm providing you with as much value as possible. So thank you for being a subscriber of Noble Trading. I hope to continue to give you helpful information, keep you updated in the market, and I will see you later this week.